Danvat Pranam. Thank you so much, Mataji, for coming. Our Tuesday session is totally dedicated for Shrimad Bhagwatam stories. So thank you so much, Mataji. You tell very nicely and very nicely stories, Mataji, to engage children for in Krishna consciousness. So thank you so much, Mataji. Meanwhile, thank you so much, kids, for coming and engage in Krishna consciousness is very good. So thank you so much. Let's start, Mataji. Thank you. You can take over your format. Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So we just repeat what is written by Acharyas. So we'll start with invocation prayers. Hare Krishna, all the kids. I hope you got the shlokas for the invocation prayers. And we're going to start reciting the Mangalachara for Shrimad Bhagwatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtaki aradhya bhagavana vrajesha tanayas tadhama vrindavanam Ramya Kachedupasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Vakalpita Shrimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Tatradharana Para Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhya Tegirim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So today we are going to do the story of Maharaj Parikshit. Why Maharaj Parikshit? Because last time we did the Mahatmya of Shrimad Bhagwatam, especially the Bhagavad Saptaha, which was reading, reciting, hearing Shrimad Bhagwatam in 7 days and being delivered. Now, who else is a better example than Maharaj Parikshit himself? Because he, for hearing Shrimad Bhagwatam and getting delivered. The whole Shrimad Bhagwatam is based on the example of of Maharaj Parikshit. Who exactly is Maharaj Parikshit? How did he end up hearing Shrimad Bhagwatam in 7 days? And what exactly happened so as for us to get to hear the Shrimad Bhagwatam is what we are going to talk about today. Now, Maharaj Parikshit, who exactly he is? He is none other than a very close relative of Sri Krishna himself. So he is the son of Abhimanyu, who is the son of Arjuna, one of the Pandavas. So he happens to be a grandson of the Pandavas. Everything about Maharaj Parikshit is extraordinary. His birth, his life, his death, everything. Birth, why? Because when he was in the womb of his mother, he was protected by none other than the Supreme Lord himself. When he was a living king, a ruling king, he was very strong and every person accepted his subordination without any question. And as far as his death or his leaving this planet is concerned, that is what we're going to talk about. He knew 7 days prior his leaving the planet, why and how would he leave. So everything about him is extraordinary. Nobody knows when they will leave. It was Maharaj Parikshit who was blessed by this. He was known as Vishnu Ratha. Why Vishnu Ratha? Because he was protected by Lord Vishnu. So many times, see, starting from the womb till his death, because when he was in the womb of his mother, the Supreme Lord himself saved him. And when it was time for him to leave, he heard Shrimad Bhagwatam from the lotus mouth of Shukdev Goswami. And Shrimad Bhagwatam is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the book form. So he was protected by the Lord always. he was a very special devotee. And now today we are going to read about exactly how he and why did he live the way he did, and why was he so blessed that he was able to hear Shrimad Bhagwatam from the lotus mouth of Shukdev Goswami in the 7 days prior his death. So one day what happened, he was riding on his horse in the forest. Being a king, being a Kshatriya, they were into killing of animals, not to hurt, not with the intention of hurting, but because they were Kshatriyas, they were allowed to practice their skills so that they could fight in the battlefield and protect the praja. So he was on his regular, forest journey, and he was hunting there. But it so happened, it was all by Krishna's arrangement. It so happened that he became very, very thirsty. Now it was a very dense forest, and he was with his some of his guards were with him, but he was on his horse, and he went deep inside the forest, and he could find no water reservoir or anything where he could drink some water and quench his thirst. So what happened was, when you're hungry or you're thirsty, you're really agitated. Now, even a person like Parikshit Maharaj, who had practiced his senses, who had practiced austerity all his life, even he got agitated to the extent that he was really desperate to have some water. So he went deep inside the forest on his horse, and lo and behold, he found a hut right there. So looking at the hut, he was very much relieved. He thought now that he's the king, he would enter the hut, and whoever would be staying there is going to welcome him, and at least will offer him some fruits and some water. With this expectation, he went inside the hut. Now he could not see anything there because there was no movement. It was very quiet place. So when he moved a little further inside the hut, he saw a sage who was sitting meditating. So because he was meditating, his eyes were closed. He did not see the king coming. So the king, because he was thirsty and he was very, very agitated by his thirst, he yelled at the sage as to so that he could acknowledge his presence. But still the sage could not hear. He went much closer to the sage. The sage was in deep meditation. He was in trance. So when you're in trance, you're not aware of your external surroundings. This sage could not hear the king coming. He could hear nothing. So then Maharaj Parikshit, he got very agitated and he started talking. So this sage, his name was Shamaka Rishi. So this Shamaka Rishi was very, very deeply absorbed in his meditation, and the king came closer and closer, but still he was in trance, so he could not be aware of king's presence. So then he started speaking little angrily. He said, "Why are you ignoring me? Open your eyes. It's your own king. I'm thirsty. You should take care of me. I have protected all the brahmanas all my life, and this is how you respond?" These words were not actually coming from King Parikshit Maharaj, because he was a very well-behaved king, and these were pretty offensive words. But no, Shamakrishi still could not hear. He was deep in meditation, getting really frustrated. He went outside, he stepped outside, and there at the doorstep, he saw a dead snake. Now, when he saw the snake, it was a dead snake. So he took the snake with his bow, he went inside, and he wrapped the dead snake around the neck of the sage. And so there were few boys who were observing, who were watching what was going on outside the hut. And when the king left, they made some way and let the king go. Now these boys were the friends of the son of Shamak Rishi. So the son of Shamak Rishi was Shringi. Now, when he left, the king, when he reached his palace, in fact, all through his journey back to his palace, he was wondering that, what did I do? That's not me. I have never behaved like this. I don't know what took over me. He never blamed the Supreme Lord for anything. But because it was very unusual of him to be so harsh in his life, he was bound to think like this. And he was thinking, why did the Supreme Lord take over my thinking, my feeling, my willing, my speaking, everything? What is the purpose behind it? And because he was a very nice king, the people in his kingdom were the happiest. So he kept thinking, he kept brooding. He didn't like what he did. Sometimes we do things which are not like us, so we don't like the way we behave. So that was how the king was behaving. He was feeling that it was not him. It was absolutely not him. He kept brooding that why did I do this? And then he reached his palace. He was very sad. He was very morose. He went in his inner quarters and he kept quiet. He was not talking much. And he was in his deep thought. Now, at the same time, those boys who were present when the king wrapped the dead snake around the neck of the sage Shamika, they went to Kaushika River. There was a river flowing in the forest by the name of Kaushika River. And there they went, the other playmates were playing there. Along with the playmates was Shringi also present there. Shringi was the son of sage Shamika. These boys, they went and they told Shringi what they saw. So they went and told him that, the king was very thirsty and he was asking for water, but your father was in deep meditation. And then suddenly we could not hear much. We just saw him wrapping the dead snake around your father's neck and he was very angry. So we just came to tell you what's going on. And Shringi, he got so upset. My father, this is what the king does. My father is a Brahmana and that's what he did to my father. I cannot believe it. Ever since Lord Krishna has left this world, we Brahmanas have no protector. And these boys, they were totally with him. Yes, you are right. Yes, you're right. Now he was very angry. He said, you know what? I am going to take revenge. So they said, what will you do? He said, I am going to punish the king myself. So they said, what are you going to do? So he said, wait, just see my power. And now his pride took over. And, as the Brahmanas do, he took some water for purification with his hand from the river and he uttered the curse. What was the curse? O wretched king, you have violated the rules of etiquette by insulting my father. Therefore, on the 7th day from today, a snake bird will bite and kill you. You like snakes? A dead snake, that is what you were wrapping around my father's neck. So let a snake bite you. And because he was a son of a Brahmana who possessed these powers from his birth and was trained, his curse could not be escaped. It was very effective. Right after he said the verse, he realized, what did he do? He ran to his home. He had this intense guilt. He was feeling very remorse. And then he entered the ashram, and when he saw the snake around his father's neck, he cried all the more. The louder he cried, the more quickly Shamaka Rishi came to his normal consciousness. And he said, what happened, my son? Why are you crying? What exactly happened? Shringi, he narrated the whole thing to his father. His father was like, alas, what have you done? He said, I'm so sorry, my father. I know I did what I did was not right. But then the king wasn't right either. So Shringi's father, Shamaka Rishi, tried to explain it to him that what you did is inexcusable. But what the king did was very insignificant. He was agitated by his thirst. And when you are hungry and you're thirsty, you don't think straight. You just cannot go and curse a king. The whole kingdom is so happy with him. Now, when the king leaves, the whole world will be filled with thieves. That will lead to social disruptions. People will be injured, animals will be, and women will be stolen. Vedic injunctions will be disregarded. Sense gratification will increase. Unwanted children will multiply like monkeys and dogs. And will we be responsible for all these sins? So the boy, Shringi, he looked down with his head down and he was deeply regretful. But what could be done? The curse uttered once cannot be taken back. So now Shamika Rishi was overwhelmed with guilt and shame for his son. So he fell on his knees and he looked up and prayed to the Lord that, "Oh Lord, please pardon my son for his great sin, for cursing a sinless king. My boy is very young and not very intelligent. Please be merciful to him." Now there the king, he was very distressed. He was feeling that he had done a great offense to the sage, and he was not able to justify his own act. So, but he kept thinking that if something has to come, some calamity has to come, let it come now. I'd rather be free from my sin now and never commit it again. When he was thinking like this, right then he heard a knock at the door. When he opened the door, he saw one of his ministers who was very sad and gloomy. And the king said, "What happened?" So he said, "I have some bad news to give you." So he said, "Yes, please tell me, what is it?" So the minister said, "Please brace yourself, king." So he said, "I'm fine, you tell me what it is." So the minister said, "The sage Shamika regrets to inform you that his son Shringi," he was not able to say beyond that. So the king said, "Yes, what?" So he said, "The foolish boy has cursed you to die by a snake bite in 7 days." Although the minister was about to cry, but Parikshit Maharaj, he accepted this as a good news. He thought that good. Now, okay, fine. Now it makes sense because my sin will now be taken care of in this lifetime itself. I don't have to worry about it. So, though he was very powerful in the sense with his austerities and with this the background he was coming from, he had the power to neutralize Shringi's curse, but he refused to do so. He very welcomely accepted the fact, the reality that this is what is going to happen. And he was thinking that, okay, finally, now I'll go back to Krishna's abode and I'm going to serve him there eternally. There's no point. And he was not at all feared about his death also. He actually was such a nice king. He wanted himself to go to Shamika Rishi. He was thinking when he was in his inner quarters, he was thinking that I rather go and apologize to Shamika Rishi for what I have done. But after he got the news and he heard that Shamika Rishi was very, very upset on what his son had done, so he thought, now if I go and apologize to Shamika Rishi, it is going to make him feel all the more bad. I don't want to shame him further. So he's such a holy man. As it is, I've done enough. So he decided not to go. But now he went and he explained the entire situation to his son, Janmajay. Janmajay was son of Maharaj Parikshit. Now he handed over the entire kingdom. He told him exactly what is to be done. And he went and he sat near, he decided to take shelter of Mother Ganges. Because he thought that, what better place than to take shelter of the auspicious river. Because that to Ganges, that is mixed with the dust of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet, and it sanctifies the lower, middle, and upper worlds. So he decided to go and sit on the bank of the Ganges. Now, when he went there, the news spread like wildfire. All the great sages, all the people who wanted to take his darshan and be around with him at this time, they all came there. All the saints, even demigods, sages, saints, demigods, they all came. They all heard that what had happened. Now, when he saw all of them there, he said that I have decided to fast for 7 days. Now, all I want to do is meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. Let the snake bird bite me immediately. My only desire is that you all please continue chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord till this happens. So all these sages, they were very proud of him. They said, they knew that he could neutralize the curse, but they knew that he was not doing so. They had very, they were looking up to him, very high esteem for him, and they smiled. They smiled and they said, sure, we understand what's happening. All we can do is we will sit here and wait till this thing happens. We won't leave your side. We won't leave you alone. And we will glorify Lord Vishnu as long as we are here. So this made him little peaceful. So he said, thank you very much. I would appreciate if you would now tell me what is the duty of a dying man. This is one question on which the entire Shrimad Bhagwatam is based. What is the duty of a dying man? So now, when he asked this question, that very moment, Shukdev Goswami happened to be coming there. He was 16 years old. He arrived there and, he was an Avadut. He was very beautiful, very, very chiseled features he had. He was blackish in complexion. He had curly hair and to normal people, he appeared to be crazy. And he was followed by very curious children and women. But all these sages who were present there, looking at his long arms, attractively white eyes, highly raised nose, beautifully shaped face, looking at his face because they had they were expert in reading the faces, they understood that he is a very respectable personality. They all stood up in his honor. And then they all sat down when he sat down. Now, King Parikshit, he paid his respects to the young sage, and all the women and children who were considering him to be a crazy person, they left. They were surprised that what was this? So far, they were following him, considering him to be a crazy person. But now he reached a place where everybody is getting up in his honor. So they left. It was hard for them to understand. So they just left. Now Shukdev Goswami, he then sat on Maharaj Parikshit offered him an exalted seat. He sat there facing the assembly, and then Maharaj Parikshit approached him. He bowed down before him, and then he said, O sage, by your mercy, you have sanctified us. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees of God. Therefore, I am entreating you to show us the way of perfection, especially when a person is about to die. What should a person hear, chant, remember, and worship? And what should he not do? Now, Shukdev Goswami, he answered, whoever desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord. He is the super soul within the heart, the controller of everyone and everything, and the deliverer from all the miseries. So Parikshit Maharaj, he nodded in agreement. Then Shukdev Goswami told him that this is the perfection of human life. You should remember the Supreme Lord at the time of your death. And he said, now I am going to recite Shrimad Bhagwatam to you. Now, while all this was happening, all the sages were coming to see this Maharaj Parikshit. Even so, Kashyap Muni, he came. He was also coming. Okay, we'll get there soon. So for now, what was happening was they all were, now Shukdev Goswami started reciting Shrimad Bhagwatam to Maharaj Parikshit. Now, Shrimad Bhagwatam's recitation in 7 days, this is where it comes for us in Shrimad Bhagwatam. This is where the Mahatmya, in Mahatmya, what we read, the importance of reading Shrimad Bhagwatam in 7 days. This is the first example, and on this is based the entire Shrimad Bhagwatam. So Shukdev Goswami, he proceeded. For next 7 days, he was reciting Shrimad Bhagwatam, and everybody was attentively listening to what all he was talking about. So we know in Shrimad Bhagwatam, there is everything. There are so many subject matters that are discussed, including the nature of the soul, the super soul, Lord's incarnation, the holy name, the creation, maintenance, destruction, spiritual salvation, heaven, hell, eternal planets, and pure love of God. Everyone was so enwrapped and enlivened by his captivating, authoritative discourse. They were all ears, and it was going on. And Maharaj Parikshit, he didn't feel thirst, he didn't feel hunger, nothing, absolutely nothing. For 7 days, he was totally focused on what Shukdev Goswami was reciting. So, in fact, so many people, so many sages who were present there, some of them even memorized the 18,000 verses which were spoken by Shukdev Goswami, because then later, they did tell their disciples, and who then told their students. So this is how it became available to us, because if you understand, it's a story within story. So in Shrimad Bhagwatam, then this was, actually it was a confidential reason that Lord caused this thing to happen, because otherwise how would we hear Shrimad Bhagwatam? So it was all Krishna's arrangement that Maharaj Parikshit lost his cool when he was thirsty, and he became agitated, and then he wrapped the snake around the sage, and then he was cursed by Shringi. All this was planned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, why would Maharaj Parikshit go back and then regret upon what he had done? Because it was unlike him. That was not Maharaj Parikshit. Why would Shringi do that? Because at that, the spur of the moment, the pride took over him, of him being a Brahmana and Maharaj Parikshit being a Kshatriya. So according to the Varnashram's dharma, he was on a greater position. So why all this? I mean, a Brahmana, he's supposed to be very humble, but because it was something which was arranged by the Lord for benefit of people like us, because otherwise how would we get Shrimad Bhagwatam? So this was all arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this curse was the catalyst for Sukadeva Goswami to come there and narrate the Shrimad Bhagwatam. And for all the sages and the gods, who gathered there, they all benefited from this. Now, Parikshit Maharaj, then, he humbly bowed his head at the feet of the young sage, rose and folded his hands in prayer, and he said, by your mercy, after the 7 days of recitation, I have now achieved my life's purpose. Because you have revealed God to me, I do not fear death or repeated births and deaths in the least. Then Shukdev Goswami nodded gladly, and then he said, please allow me to resign my speech and my senses to the Lord. Permit me to sink my mind in him and to surrender my life to him. You have shown me that which is most blessed, the personal feature of the God. Now I am firm in spiritual knowledge and self-realization, and whatever ignorance I had has been dispelled. Then Shukdev Goswami, he gave his permission. So then, along with all the sages, Parikshit Maharaj worshipped the young saint, who afterwards departed. The monarch, he was now he was free from all the material attachments, Maharaj Parikshit, and then he was deeply meditating on the Supreme Lord. Soon, now all this was happening during this time. Takshak was a snake bird. He was all ready to come and bite. If you think about it, Takshak had no animosity towards the king. It was again Krishna's plan that he was coming. Who was Takshak? Takshak was a snake bird. Who is the now? So what was happening? All the sages, when they were coming to see Maharaj Parikshit during his last days, this was the end. This was the end time. So even Kashyap Muni, he was also coming there. Now Kashyap Muni has one of his wives is Kadru. So Kadru and Kashyap Muni, they're the origin of all the snakes, and all the reptiles, like that. So all these snakes, they happen to be the sons of Kashyap Muni. Now, when Kashyap Muni was once, so what happened was Kashyap Muni was there sitting in his ashram, and from the nearby village, some people came, and they came hurriedly, and they told Kashyap Muni, what happened, what happened? And Kashyap Muni was like, whoa, what happened? So they told him that there's a jungle, in the jungle there's a tree, and there was this carpenter who was on the woodcutter who was on the tree trying to get some wood, and the whole including the woodcutter, the whole tree is burned, and he lost his life, and now there's a whole fire there. So Kashyap Muni said, why, what exactly happened? So they told him that there was this snake bird who came and who bit the tree, trying to get the woodcutter, and because the effect of the poison was so much that the whole tree got burnt along with the woodcutter, and now his entire family is lamenting. Please do something about it. So Kashyap Muni understood that this has to be one of his sons, because all the snakes inside, since we know they are coming from Kashyap Muni and Kadru. So now Kashyap Muni went to the forest. He saw the wood. He saw literally the body of the woodcutter being burnt, and the tree, and the entire, the ghastly scene, and he felt very sorry. But because he was the father of the snake bird, he had the power to attack the poison. So he said the mantras, he sprinkled the water, and he took away the poison's effect, and not only the tree was restored, the life of the person was also restored. So he was that much powerful. He was very, very powerful. So now he knew again, he heard the news that Maharaj Parikshit is going to be bitten by a snake bird. He knew who it was. So he was very sad, and he was very morose that what is my son going to be a part of now? He was very, very upset. So he was thinking, now what should I do? So since, as we mentioned, that, all the sages from all around were going to see Maharaj Parikshit take his darshan in the last days, since he was a very, very nice king. They all were very, very sad, but since it was something that had to happen and was destined by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they could not avoid it. So Kashyap Muni also went. Now, on his way, different brahmanas were coming from different areas. So on his way to the shore of Ganges, bank of river Ganges, he met another brahmana. This brahmana asked him, where are you going? So he said, I'm going to see Maharaj Parikshit. So Kashyap Muni told him that I'm going to see Maharaj Parikshit. So he said, you know what, I am also going there. Let's go together. So Kashyap Muni said, okay, no worries. So they started their journey together in that direction. Now, when they were going there, they were talking to each other, and Maharaj and this brahmana, he asked him, so what have you heard? What exactly is going on there? I'm not much clear about what's happening. So this person, so Kashyap Muni told this brahmana that, Maharaj Parikshit has been cursed to be bitten by a snake bird, and I am just going to go there to see if I can help somehow. So he said, help somehow means, you can help him. So he said, actually, you know what, this Takshak is my son. And then he narrated him the whole pastime that I can counteract the effect of poison. And Maharaj Parikshit is such an important king, and I don't think it's fair what Shringi did. So I just want to go and try and help. So this brahmana said, oh, you think you are more powerful than Vishnu? So Kashyap Muni said, why do you say that? So he said, Maharaj Parikshit is Vishnu Ratha, right? So he said, yes. So he said, that when he was in the womb of his mother, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself took the size of a thumb went inside the womb of Mother Uttara and protected him. And there Maharaj Parishad was just observing there itself in the womb how he was protected. So he said, yes. So he said, do you know how he's got the name Parishad? So he said, why? So this Brahmana was telling him that when Maharaj Parishad came out of the womb of his mother left and he was taken care of by his grandfathers, and they all taught him everything, all the arts and military arts and everything they taught him, and he became such an expert king. But all during this time when he was growing up, learning all different arts, politics and whatnot, how to run a kingdom, he was always looking for that person who he saw in his womb, in the womb of his mother. He was testing everybody. Is he the one? Is he the one? So that is why he was given the name Parikshit. Parikshit in Hindi means parikshan karna. Parikshan karna means to test, so he was testing everybody. Is he the one? Is he the one? So he is that blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you think you can help him? He is protected by the Supreme Lord. So Kashyap Muni was all ears. He was listening. He was getting very captivated by what he was saying, and he was kind of being influenced. So then this Brahmana said, you tell me, he was telling Kashyap Muni, he was telling, you tell me, sir, who have you heard that, who knows about his death 7 days prior to the event that is going to take place? Who knows when they are going to die, and who is going to, how and when are they going to die? It's only Maharaj Parishad, because he has special mercy from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Kashyap Muni was all ears. He was listening. So he said, yes, you're right. So he said, and you think you can save him? So, then he was telling him, it's okay. He's Vishnu Ratha. Leave it up to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is going to take care of him. You don't have to worry about it. So Kashyap Muni was just listening patiently, and he was, getting influenced by what the Brahmana was saying. And then the Brahmana said, when you go there, the king is going to give you some charity and some gifts. You've come all the way from your place. You must be tired, because at that time when this was happening, it was already the 6th day. There was only one more day left when Kashyap Muni would have reached the bank of Ganges and would have protected Maharaj Parishad. So it was already the 6th day, and there was some more distance that he had to cover. So so this Brahmana is telling Kashyap Muni that, it's okay. I'll give you the charity. I'll give you whatever I have, and you take that as a charity, because when a Brahmana goes to a place, he doesn't come without charity. So he said, whatever I have, I'll give it to you. I'll go and I'll convey a message to Maharaj Parishad that you were, you're such a well-wisher and you wanted to do that. But trust me, he's a Vishnu Ratha. He'll be taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. So Kashyap Muni was listening. He was all ears. He was like, seriously? So then after giving, after still, he walked a few steps after giving it a deep thought. He said, yeah, maybe you're right. He is a Vishnu Ratha, and my power is not greater than Lord Vishnu, and he has been protected by Lord Vishnu always. So will he be protected now? What was I thinking? And he thought, and then he looked at the Brahmana and he said, thank you so much. But yes, I think I should go back. I should not challenge the power of Lord Vishnu. So this Brahmana, he gave him the gifts and whatever, all the charity that he had, and he asked him to leave. And then Kashyap Muni actually left for his own cottage. Now, this Brahmana was none other than Takshak. He was the snake bird. So because they had the mystic power, they could change the forms. So he took the form of this Brahmana to talk his dad into it, so that he would go back. Reason being, because this had happened with him earlier. Remember, I told you that the woodcutter, the pastime of the woodcutter, where Takshak had burned the whole tree along with the woodcutter, and the father then Kashyap Muni came and he restored everything. So thinking of that, Takshak took the form of a Brahmana to convince his father, Kashyap Muni, so that because he knew that if there is somebody who can neutralize the effect of his poison, that has to be his father. He had the experience in the past, and he didn't want that to happen because it was Krishna's arrangement. So that's the kind of intelligence he had at that point of time. So he took the form of a Brahmana. He disguised himself as a Brahmana, and then he approached his father. He convinced him to go back, and then he moved ahead. And then when he reached that very spot where Parikshit Maharaj was there, amongst such a big assembly, he took the form of a Brahmana purposely, because otherwise, if he would come as a snake bird, nobody would let him even come near Maharaj Parikshit. They all loved Maharaj Parikshit so much. He was such a noble king. So then that's purposely, he disguised himself as a Brahmana. He reached there, and then he actually bit him. And the effect of the poison was such that instantly it was like a roaring fire, and it burned the body of the king to ashes. So then there was a very terrible cry of sorrow in all directions, in earth, in heavens, many gods, demons, human beings. Everybody was amazed as to what was going on. And then the gods, because he was such a nice, noble king, they showered flowers, they spoke praises for him. And they beat the kettle drums, and the Gandharvas and the Apsaras, they were singing jubilantly. And since now, why they were doing it like this? Because it was a reason for celebration, if you think about it, because the king returned to the spiritual world. So in that regard, it was a reason for celebration. So now when King Parikshit, when his son Janmajay, he heard that his father had been bitten by Takshak, he became very furious. He wanted to capture all the snakes in the world, and then he wanted the Brahmanas to perform a sacrifice in which he would offer all the reptiles in the fire. And then when Takshak, he noted that even when all Takshak himself, when he saw that this sacrifice was going on and all the powerful snakes, they were being slaughtered, so he was very scared. He approached Lord Indra, who was the leader of the gods, and for protection. And then when Takshak, when Janmajay saw that all the reptiles were being offered in the sacrifice, but Takshak, he asked the question to the Brahmanas that why isn't the snake bird also burning? So then the Brahmana replied that because Indra is protecting him. So then Janmajay was so angry. He said, you say mantras which will make Takshak and Indra both fall in the fire. So the priests, they had to listen to him. Now he was the ruling king. So they said, okay, we'll do that. And they started chanting mantras. But then Brahaspati, who's the spiritual master of the demigods, he came and he saw Indra and Takshak in the aeroplane, because when they started chanting the mantra, they started falling from their position. And when he saw that, he approached the king and he told that it's not right for you to kill Takshak, Janmajay, because he told the king Janmajay that it is not right for you to kill Takshak, because he has already tasted the nectar, which kind of gives him the immortality. He has to be free from old age and death. So that will not be right. And so you please stop this sacrifice. And whatever has happened to your father, that is by the will of the Lord. It has got nothing to do. They did not do anything on purpose or intentionally. They were just used as instruments. So already you've killed so many innocent snakes. So just stop this sacrifice now. And it's not the right thing to do. So now, because it's Brahaspati, the spiritual master of the demigod, so Janmajay, he respects his authority and he stops the sacrifice. And then everything was back to the way it was supposed to be. So there are so many things we learn from the story. Firstly, the importance of Shrimad Bhagavatam. It was only 7 days, and in 7 days, Maharaj Parikshit heard the Shrimad Bhagavatam from the lotus mouth of Shukadev Goswami and was delivered. So it is very, very important to read or hear Shrimad Bhagavatam every day without fail. It can be a verse, it can be a chapter, it can be a story, it can be as much as you can give your time to it. Depends on different people and different circumstances. But it should be a part of our daily sadhana. So this is the most important. Then on a day-to-day basis, it teaches us what anger can do to you. You know, how important it is to control your anger. Here, though Maharaj Parikshit and Shringi both were agitated, but both were used as instruments by the Lord. They were not like that, but we are like that. So we lose our cool. So we need to understand that what anger can actually do to us. So it is very, 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 very important to learn to control our anger. There is so many things we learn from this. But most importantly is so the amazing thing is Maharaj Parikshit was aware that he would be leaving his body in 7 days' time, which is very unlikely. But he was a very special soul. So he was aware of it. If you think about it, we all have 7 days. Now, why? Why do I say that? Because we all are going to leave one day starting from Sunday to Saturday. Any one day, Saturday to Sunday is 7 days, So in that regard, we all know that we are going to leave. So just a thought. So anyway, so yeah, it is very, very important to read Shrimad Bhagavatam. Now, we understood the importance of Shrimad Bhagavatam. We read the first, the most important example of Maharaj Parikshit, what happens by reading Shrimad Bhagavatam, how he was delivered. Now, in the coming classes, we will now read what exactly is. Now we will come to the stories of Shrimad Bhagavatam. What is it that Maharaj Parikshit was listening to, and what exactly is there in Shrimad Bhagavatam? So with this, I would like to end, and if there are any questions, then please, or any comments, then I'll open up for that.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So Mataji, should we take question answer?
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, kids. Who have any question? So please unmute yourself, Jyotsna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, you said that Kashyap and Kadru were the origin of all the reptiles. So since there are 6 different types of bodies, are there...
Jyotsna, you are unmuted.
Muted. Jyotsna, you're muted.
Sorry. You said Kashyap and Kadru were the origin of the reptiles. So since there are 6 different types of bodies, are there any origins for all those kind of bodies?
Oh, everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through so many Prajapatis we have. So Kashyap Muni is one of them, and he had many wives. And from Kadru, he had all the snakes. And then like from other wives and other Prajapatis, there are definitely origins of different species like this.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
No worries.
Ramachandra.
Mataji, I really like the point where Shringi, even though the minister was saying it, Parikshit Maharaj took it as a blessing. He didn't he wasn't like reacting back he wasn't so sad or anything. He actually took it as a boon, or wasn't like I'm gonna curse Shringi or something. He was took it as a boon.
Yeah, that's what happens when you are surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when you know that He's the one who is going to take care of you. So then you buy everything what He does in your benefit. That happens only with that kind of faith and trust. So that's what Maharaj Parikshit was doing. He was totally surrendered, and he knew whatever Krishna will do will be good for him. So yes, very nice comment. Good observation.
Suraj?
Mataji, I thought Kashyap Muni was the father of all the snakes, but when was he the father of reptiles?
So as I said, all the reptiles, snakes come in the same category, right?
Yes, they do come in the category.
So like that, he's father of Garuda also.
I know, but I wonder why he's father of reptiles. I thought it was just snakes.
No, all the reptiles.
Okay.
If anybody have any question, Myra, do you have any question?
I don't have any question.
Okay, so I hope you understand the story, right?
Yes.
Okay. So kids, if you have any question.
I have a question.
Okay, Myra.
So I send my mom send like my mom send you the a message so you can add my mom to the group.
Okay, Myra. Okay. So I think Mataji, kids got their answers. So
Sure.
Mataji, your call.
All right, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for a very wonderful story. And
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for the class.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji.